All right. So Facebook has made some changes and I'm just waiting to confirm that I'm live because it doesn't always show me right away. That makes it kind of weird. Okay, looks like we are live, so we should be good. All right, so we have earlier this month, the SBA put out the simplified forgiveness form for PPP loans that are under $50,000 or less. So if you have exactly 50,000, you still qualify under this. It's form 3508S is the form number. So if you just Google that, you can find it, but I'll drop a link in the comments when this is done. But this form has been something that we've been waiting for several months now, almost the entire summer. We've been told this was going to be coming out, and it's now out, and we're super excited because it truly is so simple now. So this form, I'm going to share my screen so you can see it because I just want to truly show you how simple it actually is here. So let me just want to make sure we're screen sharing right here. All right, so you can see this form. It's literally a 2-page form, and the second page is optional, guys. It's demographic information for the SBA is really all that is. So it's a 1-page form, even though the PDF is 2 pages, which is amazing. So on this, it's really super simple. You're going to put in your name. If you operate under a DBA or a trade name, you're going to put that in here. So the borrower, if you borrowed under your entity, an LLC, an S corporation, a C corporation, a partnership, if you use your name to borrow, that's what's going to go there. If you borrowed as a sole proprietor under your individual name, then that's going to go there, and then your DBA or your trade name will go in right here in this section. Address, tax ID number. Again, if you operate as a sole proprietor and you do not utilize an EIN, then you're just going to put your social security number in there. So basically contact information. SBA loan number, the lender loan number, the amount, the date you received the funds, employees at the time of application, employees at the time that you're filing this forgiveness application. If you received an EIDL advance, the EIDL, the economic injury disaster loan, if you received an advance on that, you have to put that in here because that's going to reduce your forgivable component of the PPP. So I want to make that very clear. If you received an advance on the EIDL, which was the actual SBA loan, not the PPP loan, if you received $4,000 there, then automatically 4,000 of this is going to have to be repaid on a loan. But that's still pretty phenomenal at the terms that they have here. So just know that. So the EIDL application number, the forgiveness amount. So these are all things that if you're not sure how to fill this out, contact your bank. They're going to have a lot of these loan numbers and the loan amounts, disbursement date, those types of things for you. Look back at your original application. If you worked with your tax professional to assist you in filling this out, they should be able to have a lot of this information. They may not necessarily have the loan numbers if you didn't provide those to them, so you may have to go back to the bank for those still. But this is going to be something that you can jump in here and fill this out really quickly. Now, here is, let me make this bigger because I want to make sure you guys can see this. I geek out on this stuff, but I'm so excited that this application is out because this is going to simplify so many things for so many people. So right here, by signing below, you make the following representations and certifications on behalf of the borrower. Who's the borrower? You or your business are the borrower. So you're literally going to go down and you're going to read these. You're not just going to initial because it's simple and you just want to initial. You need to read these and understand what you're actually initialing. So by initialing these, you are certifying that all of this is true. So this is basically your forgiveness request is just certifying that all of these facts are true. Really freaking simple. I'm so excited. This is going to save so many people so much time. So you're certifying that it is true, but the dollar amount that you are asking for forgiveness up here in this forgiveness amount, that the dollar amount for which forgiveness is requested does not exceed the principal amount of the PPP loan. And you're going to initial saying, yes, I did use this money for eligible costs. So this is your payroll to retain employees. This is business mortgage interest, business rent or lease, business utility payments, that you did actually use it for those needs. You're going to initial here saying, yes, the payroll costs component of this was at least 60% of the forgiveness amount. So if you're asking to be forgiven for, we're talking 50,000, so let's use nice round numbers here to make the math easy on us all. So if you're asking, if you had a PPP loan for $10,000 and you're asking for forgiveness on $10,000, at least 6,000 of that had to be used for payroll costs. So just make sure you're aware of that and that you're running your numbers. I did a video quite a while back when this all first started on how you should be recording this all in QuickBooks. If you need that link, let me know. I'll drop it. If not, just go over to YouTube, search Elevating Profits, and you can find it there on how to record that, because that's going to be the easiest way for you to confirm what was in here. And you're going to want those records down the road should the SBA ever come back and audit your loan, which is always a possibility on these things. If you're using a 24-week covered period, which I'm not going to go into all the definitions of everything here, so I'm sorry, you can find that in some other videos, or if you have questions, drop them below and I'll explain it, but I want to try and keep this short, so I'm not going to go into that on the video right now. But if your covered period was for 24 weeks, that the payroll portion does not exceed 2.5 months of 2019 compensation for any owner, employee, or self-employed individual. So again, this is basically saying that if you paid yourself, that you didn't pay yourself an exorbitant amount, that you're still within that 2.5 months of your prior salary from 2019. If you're in an 8-week covered period, then it cannot exceed 8 weeks worth of the 2019 compensation. So, little trick of the trade here. You want to try and get a 24-week covered period. If you applied early on, I think, I'm pulling this out of my memory bank here, but I think it was June was kind of the switch on this. If you applied and received your PPP loan before June, you're most likely in an 8-week covered period. If you applied after that, then you're most likely automatically in a 24-week covered period. So just make sure that if you're not sure, that you're talking to your bank and you're understanding that component of it there. You're going to initial saying that you understand that if the funds were knowingly used for unauthorized purposes. Authorized purposes, again, are payroll costs for employees, business mortgage interest, business rent or lease, and business utilities. If you knowingly used these funds for anything outside of that, you're basically initialing like, yes, I know that government can come back and just stick it to me on this because that was the purpose of these funds, guys. So if you didn't use them for that and you initial here asking for forgiveness, just know that I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm pretty sure there is going to be some sort of audit component around this down the road. The borrower is verifying that the eligible payroll and non-payroll costs for them that you're requesting forgiveness are accurately calculated. Again, you might have to do some research. I'm going to advise you to rely on your tax professional, because we've all been through the ringer this year with learning about this, with how quickly it came out and how quickly it was implemented. Like, most of us know the ins and outs of this, or can quickly find the ins and outs if you have questions. So making sure that you're accurately calculating the forgiveness component is still going to be important. So just because you can put on here, if you got a $10,000 loan, it doesn't mean that $10,000 of it is automatically the forgiveness portion you can get. I was working with a client a few months ago that her, well, I guess it was about a month and a half ago, her bank opened up the application before this was out, and we were going through and she couldn't figure out why it wasn't all forgiven. And I was able to identify the reason, but she was trying to have it all forgiven and legally it wasn't all able to be forgiven. So you have to make sure that you're understanding when you're doing this, that your calculations are correct on that piece. You have to certify that you have submitted to the lender the required documentation verifying these prior to the February 15th, for these expenses prior to February 15th. So this is basically saying when you applied for this loan, your lender should have asked for all of these documentation that they needed to verify expenses. They may ask for some more documentation to verify that they're doing their due diligence on their end, but you're basically certifying here that you've provided all required documentation that you've been asked for. You are certifying that the information provided in this application and the information provided in all supporting documents and forms is true. Again, going back to that, I understand that knowingly making a false statement to obtain forgiveness is punishable under law by imprisonment of not more than 5 years and a fine of up to $250,000. I'm sorry, but if you got a loan under $50,000, 5 years in jail or a $250,000 fine, it doesn't seem like something I'm going to gamble on just to have a little bit more of it forgiven. just figure out the right calculations and get it in there correctly. That is going to be huge on this piece. You're certifying that the documents that you've submitted to the lender are consistent with those that the borrower submitted or will submit to the IRS and/or state tax or workforce agency. So basically, you're saying that if you're claiming you started with 3 employees and you ended with 3 employees, that when they go back and they go to the IRS to look at your 941, or they go to the Department of Labor for your state to look at your unemployment documents, that they're going to be able to verify that you've claimed 3 employees across the board on all of these. So don't think you're going to get away with this. I've had some people ask and they're like, well, can we just put that I still have 4 because I only have 3? I'm like, no, we have to put the right number. Do not falsify these things, guys. It's not worth it. Make sure you're doing them correctly. So just know that they're going to be verifying this with your payroll reports as well. And then you understand, acknowledge, and agree that the SBA may request additional information for the purposes of evaluating the eligibility for loan forgiveness, and that your failure to provide that information may result in a determination that you are ineligible for loan forgiveness. So, simplified form. That's it. Do that. Sign it. Date it. Print your name. Send it to the bank when they're ready for it. Most banks are going to have their own version of this that is going to be very similar, but most likely an automated version on their websites that you can fill this out on. So that's it. But once you submit this, you're not done. You need to stay in contact with your bank, or you need to stay in contact with the lender that you got the PPP loan through, because what's going to happen here is that you are going to have an option fill this out and send it in, but then the bank and the SBA could come back and say, hey, we need this proof, we need this proof, we need this proof. So simplified form does not mean that you're not going to have to provide any documents. This is not the automatic forgiveness component that we were hoping for, but it is much, much simplified. So still keep your documents. Make sure your books are in order and that you have everything in there. You need to have those contra accounts in there. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, I will drop the link for that YouTube video in the comments below so you can check that out. I will drop the link for this form below so you can click on that if you have questions. If you're not sure if your bank is accepting, some are. A lot are not ready for it yet. But like, for example, I know Chase is ready to accept. So Chase, I have a couple clients that we did the PPP loans through Chase, and so we're working on their forgiveness applications currently. That's the only big bank I know of for sure. I've had a couple small credit unions accept paper applications, but not fully processed yet. But check with your lender, check with your banker, find out if they're ready. If they're not ready, find out when they're going to be ready. Stay on top of that piece of it because you don't want to miss the cutoff to apply for the forgiveness either. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I will make sure that I am asking those and getting those back to you. Otherwise, let's just be super excited that this form came out. Make sure you're doing your due diligence, you're getting everything in order. So quick recap, and then I'm going to jump off. SBA 3508S is the form that you're looking for. If you use an accounting software, you need to make sure that you have your contra accounts in there and that you clearly identify penny for penny the expenses that were paid using the PPP loan funds. You want to make sure that you're answering all those questions, that you're confident in your answers, and that you're confident in your forgiveness calculations. If you're not sure about your forgiveness calculation, you need to seek out the assistance of your tax professional to make sure that you're getting those in place. So again, any questions, drop them below and I will make sure I get those answered. Otherwise, yay for the simplified form. We're excited.